Let me describe someone to you. Her name is Amanda. She's 32 years old, a project manager at a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas. She makes exactly $87,500 a year. Her fiancé, Marcus, is 34, a high school math teacher pulling in $59,200. Their combined household income is $146,700. On paper, they're solidly middle class. They should be saving aggressively for a down payment. They should be maxing out retirement accounts. They should feel secure, optimistic, and ahead of schedule compared to most of their peers. Instead, they're exhausted. Their checking account hovers between $1,200 and $2,000 before each payday. Their emergency fund is a fragile $4,800 sitting in a high-yield savings account that keeps changing the rate like a bad joke. Their credit card balance creeps between $3,000 and $5,000 depending on the month. 2 weeks ago, their 2015 Honda Civic needed a $1,940 repair. New tires, alignment, and a surprise suspension issue. The car is worth maybe $9,000. When the mechanic gave the estimate, they didn't pull from savings. They didn't calmly write a check. They put $1,500 on a credit card and used a buy now, pay later option for the remaining $440. And the craziest part? They did everything right. They both went to in-state public universities to avoid massive debt. They each contribute to their 401k up to the employer match because every article says, don't leave free money on the table. They have health insurance, renter's insurance, even term life insurance, because that's what responsible adults do. They don't drive luxury cars. They don't take 5-star vacations. Their biggest splurge is takeout twice a week. So why does it feel like they're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up? Why, with almost $150,000 in household income, does a $1,940 car repair feel like a small financial emergency instead of a mild annoyance? Why does every raise feel like it disappears within 6 months? Here's the uncomfortable paradox. On paper, the numbers say they're doing great. In real life, their dollars behave like they're worth a fraction of that. It feels like every $1 they earn turns into about 23 cents of actual, usable freedom. If you see yourself in Amanda and Marcus at all, stay with me. Because what's happening to them is not a personal failure. It's a system failure. And there is a very specific, very mathematical reason why your $1 today keeps turning into 0.23 tomorrow. My name is Barack, and I spend way too much time thinking about how supposedly rational financial systems quietly siphon away your wealth while convincing you it's your fault. If you're someone who feels like you're working harder, earning more, checking all the responsible adult boxes, and yet somehow still feel broke, or if you're someone who's skeptical every time a financial expert says, just budget better and cut lattes, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we aren't talking about generic inflation or things are getting more expensive. We're talking about the silent devaluation machine that turns every $1 you earn into about 23 cents of actual power. We're talking about what I call the silent devaluation trap. Here's the thing. You've been told a very simple story about money your entire life. It goes like this. If you earn more, save consistently, avoid dumb debt, and invest for the long term, you'll be fine. The market always goes up. Compound interest will save you. Just be disciplined. It seems perfectly logical, right? Higher income plus long-term investing plus delayed gratification should equal financial security. The math should work out. Your parents and grandparents repeated it. Every personal finance book repeats it. Your HR onboarding packet repeats it. So when it doesn't work, who do you blame? Yourself. Except that's not what happened. Because the system quietly changed the rules. The story stayed the same. But the math underneath it did not. The contrarian truth is brutal. Your dollars are being hit by what I call the compounding devaluation tax. Not a literal tax line you see on your pay stub, but a hidden, layered penalty on your money that stacks through time, fees, price changes, and policy decisions you never voted on. There's a term in economics called money illusion, which basically means your brain focuses on the number on your paycheck, not what that number can actually buy. A 2022 paper in the Journal of Economic Perspectives dug into this and found that people systematically underestimate how much inflation and cost shifts erode their real income, especially when nominal wages are rising. In plain English, if your salary goes from $70,000 to $80,000, your brain says, I'm up $10,000. But in the real world, after hidden costs and price jumps, you might effectively be flat or even down. Let that sink in. The Federal Reserve's own data shows that from 2000 to 2023, average wages did increase. That part of the story is technically true. But when researchers at the Hamilton Project and the Pew Research Center adjusted for housing, healthcare, and education costs, the middle class barely moved in real purchasing power. Some groups went backward. So when it feels like $1 of your income behaves more like 23 cents of actual freedom, that's not because you're bad with money. That's because you're trapped inside the compounding devaluation tax. It is systemic, it is engineered, and it is absolutely not your fault. Let me take you back to 1980, because understanding history is crucial. In 1980, the typical American household income was around $21,000. That sounds tiny compared to today's numbers, but that $21,000 carried a very different kind of power. The typical single-income household could often afford a modest house, one car, some vacations, and still save. The typical middle-class worker back then had a few key advantages. They had housing that cost a smaller slice of their income. They had employer pensions that actually guaranteed retirement income. They had lower healthcare premiums and much cheaper university tuition. And here's what most people don't realize. They also had slack. Margin. A built-in financial cushion created by lower fixed costs. According to data from the U.S. Census and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median home price in 1980 was around $47,200. For a household making $21,000, that's a little more than twice their income. In many markets, a single full-time income could handle a mortgage, a car payment, and still have money left. Fast forward to today. Median household income hovers around $74,500. That sounds like a huge win. But look at costs. In many cities, the median home price is not 2 times income. It's 5, 6, even 8 times household income. Nationwide, according to the Federal Reserve, the median home price in recent years has been north of $400,000. That is more than 5 times the median income. College tuition at public universities, according to the College Board, has increased over 200% since 1990 after adjusting for overall inflation. Healthcare premiums for employer plans have more than tripled since the late 1990s. So the entire income gain that looks impressive on paper has been quietly absorbed by 3 exploding categories: housing that eats your future, healthcare that eats your present, and education that eats your children's future. The 1980 worker had an invisible backup plan. Lower fixed costs meant more flexibility. They could survive a job loss or a car repair without everything collapsing. The modern worker? With high rent or mortgage, student loans, childcare, and healthcare premiums all locked in, that backup plan is gone. This is not you failing at adulthood. This is the structure changing underneath you, while everyone pretended the old rules still applied. Now you might be thinking, okay, yeah, things are more expensive. I get that. But how does $1 turn into 23 cents? That sounds exaggerated. Let me walk you through the math in human terms. Let's stick with Amanda and Marcus. Their combined gross income is $146,700. On paper, that's solid. It's the kind of number that makes people say, you're doing great, What are you complaining about? Let's focus on what actually happens to that $146,700. First, taxes. Between federal income tax, state tax in Texas being zero but higher federal, Social Security, and Medicare, their combined effective tax rate might land around 18% after deductions and 401k contributions. That means roughly $26,400 disappears before they ever see it. Their $146,700 instantly becomes about $120,300 of take-home pay. But wait, there's more. Health insurance premiums through work for a couple can easily be $550 per month for a mid-tier plan. Over a year, that's $6,600. Now their usable income is closer to $113,700 before they even see a doctor or fill a prescription. And we're not done. They live in a fairly average apartment in Austin. Rent is $2,150 per month for a one-bedroom in a safe area. That's $25,800 a year. Now we're at about $87,900. They have one car paid off and one small car payment. Between the payment, insurance, gas, and routine maintenance, transportation runs about $150 per month. Over a year, that's $13,800. Their $87,900 just became roughly $74,100. Groceries for two adults in a city like Austin, eating mostly at home but not living on ramen, can easily hit $650 per month. That's another $7,800 per year. Now we're at $66,300. Student loans? Between them, they owe around $62,000. Their combined monthly minimums are $580, which is $6,960 per year. Their functional income drops again to around $59,340. And we're still not done. Utilities, internet, and phone might run about $450 per month combined, which is $5,400 per year. Now they're at about $53,940. They contribute 6% each to their 401k to get the employer match. That's $8,802 per year going into retirement accounts. It's a good long-term decision, but it reduces present spending power. After that, their spendable income is roughly $45,100. Now add the little things that are not actually little: car registration and inspection, occasional clothes, basic home items, a few streaming services, small gifts, and random life. Let's be conservative and say $600 per month, or $7,200 per year. That leaves them with around $37,900. Out of $146,700 in gross income, they're left with about $37,900 of actual discretionary money for the entire year. That covers dining out, travel, emergencies, small savings, hobbies, and everything fun in life. Let's add it up in plain English. They earn $146,700. After basic, non-luxury, standard middle-class costs and responsible decisions, they end up with roughly $37,900 of flexible money. That means for every $1 of gross income, they have about 26 cents of actual, usable freedom. That's not a typo. And remember that $37,900 is before any surprise, the $1,940 car repair, the $900 dental bill, the $1,200 flight for a family emergency. In practical terms, this means that when Amanda and Marcus think we got a $10,000 raise, the system quietly replies, "Cool story. Here's $2,600 of actual new breathing room." The rest gets swallowed by higher tax brackets, higher rent on renewal, higher insurance premiums, and lifestyle creep, just to feel normal. Here's the kicker. This is the 23-cent reality. It's the gap between what your paycheck says you earn and what your life says you can actually do. Someone is trading 40, 50, even 60 hours a week, plus commute time and mental bandwidth, and netting the equivalent of a part-time freedom income. And here's what really gets me. Every institution in that chain tells you it's your fault for not budgeting harder. And here's the psychological trap. Because your brain sees the big number first, you feel richer than you are. You make decisions based on $146,700, not on $37,900. The illusion is simple. Your offer letter, your LinkedIn, your sense of identity, all attached to that gross figure. It becomes who you are. This is money illusion in real time. Your employer proudly announces a 5% raise. Your brain anchors on the new number. You start thinking, okay, maybe we can upgrade the apartment. Maybe we can lease a slightly nicer car. Maybe that vacation isn't irresponsible anymore. The bank happily offers you a bigger mortgage because, on paper, your debt-to-income ratio works as long as, and this is the key, nothing serious goes wrong. The car always starts. No one gets sick. No one loses a job. Childcare doesn't spike. The rent doesn't jump $400 at renewal. The institution says, yes, you can afford this, as long as life behaves perfectly. You never burn out. You never need a break. And inflation politely asks your permission before showing up. This is where the trap snaps shut. Because you commit future you to fixed payments based on gross numbers, not the 23-cent reality. Every time you sign a lease, a car loan, a student loan, or a subscription, you're pre-spending your future 23 cents, not your current $1. The past generations had an advantage you don't: excess capacity. More of their income was variable, not fixed. If things got tight, they could pull back quickly, cancel fewer things, adjust fewer obligations. The modern middle-class worker has already burned that advantage. Your fixed costs are locked in higher. Your discretionary slice of income is smaller. Your mental bandwidth is thinner. Layer on top of that a scarcity mindset, which basically means when you constantly feel like you're one bad week away from chaos, your brain shifts from strategic planning to survival mode. You default to convenient spending. You click buy now, pay later. You avoid opening bills because your decision fatigue is maxed out. Meanwhile, social pressure tells you that at 30 or 35, you should have a certain car, a certain apartment aesthetic, a certain wedding, a certain level of travel. Opting out feels like failure, not strategy. So smart, educated, data-driven people walk straight into what I call the lifestyle lock-in scam. It's not that you're irresponsible. It's that you were nudged, marketed to, and pre-approved into a life where 77 cents of every dollar is already claimed before you get to choose. The math is ruthless. The psychology makes it feel normal. That combination is deadly. So what is the solution? Now you might be thinking, Barack, this sounds impossible. Everything is expensive. I can't just move to 1980. What am I supposed to do? Live in a tent and eat rice? That's exactly the trap talking. Here's the mindset shift. Stop optimizing for higher headline income and start optimizing for higher freedom yield. Freedom yield is simply how many cents of each dollar you actually control after the system takes its cut. The alternative approach is what I call the 50-cent rebellion. Your goal is not to hit $100,000 or $150,000 or any vanity salary. Your goal is to restructure your life so that within a realistic time frame, at least 50 cents of every dollar you earn becomes real, controllable, flexible money. You do that not by hustling more hours, but by attacking the biggest fixed cost levers on purpose. Let me make this concrete. Imagine Amanda and Marcus decide to go all in on the 50-cent rebellion for 3 years. They move one ring further out from the city center and accept a slightly longer commute, dropping rent from $2,150 to $1,650 a month. That alone frees $6,000 a year. They sell the car with the payment and buy a reliable used car in cash for $10,000, using most of their small savings and a tax refund, cutting transportation costs from $150 to around $780 per month. That's another roughly $4,440 per year. They pause retirement contributions above the employer match temporarily, reclaiming, say, $4,000 per year in present cash flow. They commit to cooking at home 4 extra nights a week, trimming $250 per month from food and delivery, which is another $3,000 per year. Just those 4 moves add roughly $17,440 to their annual flexibility, pushing their freedom yield from about 26 cents per dollar closer to 38 or 40 cents, without a single extra hour of work. Is that fun? No. It requires sacrifice, less glamorous housing, less convenient transportation, fewer impulsive dinners out, and slower lifestyle upgrades. But within 24 to 36 months, that extra $17,000 to $20,000 per year can build a real emergency fund, crush the remaining high-interest debt, and create breathing room. You're not buying granite countertops. You're buying options. You're buying the ability to say no to a toxic job, yes to a career pivot, not yet to lifestyle pressure. The point isn't perfection. The point is rebellion. Deliberately pushing your life away from the 23-cent norm and toward a 50-cent reality, even if you never quite hit the full 50. Every cent you reclaim is leverage. I want to leave you with one final thought. This whole conversation about why $1 today feels like 23 cents tomorrow isn't really about budgets or cutting coffee. It's about power. It's about flexibility. It's about how much of your life you actually own. Our parents and grandparents, for all the things they struggled with, often had one intangible benefit we lost: slack. They had lower fixed costs relative to income, which meant more margin for error, more room to breathe, more space to recover from mistakes. We traded that flexibility for nicer apartments, newer cars, constant connectivity, rising credentials, and a sense of looking successful in a world that's quietly bleeding us dry. We traded margin for maintenance. We wake up each month not asking, what do I want to do with my life? But can I keep all these plates spinning for one more cycle? But those material things are not the real goal. The real goal is optionality. The ability to downshift without disaster. The ability to walk away. The ability to handle a $1,940 car repair without spiraling into shame or debt. You can work your way out of a lot of problems. You can't work your way out of traps you don't know you're in. Now you know. You know that the big number on your offer letter is not the same as your freedom yield. You know that the system is designed to normalize the 23-cent reality and blame you for not stretching that quarter into a dollar. Your rebellion is not about perfection or martyrdom. It's about awareness, deliberate trade-offs, and refusing to let institutions spend your future for you. If this video punched you in the gut a little, but also gave you language and math for something you've been feeling for years, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with one friend who keeps saying, I make good money, so why do I still feel broke? Because once you see the silent devaluation trap and start your own 50-cent rebellion, you're not just saving money. You're buying back pieces of your life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.